I'm one of the data consultants here with Texas. And today we're really going to be going over some more of some in-depth pieces than we covered in our last webinar. The end goal for today is to show you how to really go through and create a LYBUNT report, which will help you analyze your donor retention. And help you see your donors who gave last year, but unfortunately not this year. And we'll kind of do some different things with that to show you how to even expand that reporting a little bit. And we're also going to, through using the and/or statements and some cross filters. And we're also going to get into working with dashboards today and putting some pieces on dashboards, hopefully just giving you some ideas for how you can use dashboards to help your team members as we go through the different activities that your fundraising is doing, or your events team, so we can give them some access to some key data in an easy way for them to digest. And then at the end, of course, we'll have some questions and answers. So for the sake of time, let's just jump right into it, and then we'll go from there. Let me switch this out here. All right, so just a brief overview of kind of how to get to reports and where we're going here. So when you log in, chances are you're set up to go to this is your home screen, and then from there you're going to use this top navigation to migrate over to reports. And I personally tend to put dashboards right next to it when I customize any tabs, but you should be able to find both of these somewhere on your top nav screen. And if for some reason you don't see dashboards or reports, either one on your top navigation screen, you can always double check your app finder over here. Those should be readily available on the Nonprofit Starter Pack or Nonprofit Success Pack. But even if you don't find them, this plus sign here has. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into reports. So the first thing that we're going to do is let's talk about a LYBUNT report. The idea behind this, in case this isn't something you guys are already talking about, is to pull up a list of donors who have given to you last year but not this year. So there's a couple different ways of thinking about this. You can use this for your end-of-year giving campaigns to kind of make sure that donors aren't lapsing. And so if you're going to send out an email campaign or a mail campaign, there's kind of two different ways to look at this. So when we get into the new report, you're going to want to make a decision right from the get-go. Like we talked about last time, this report types really is the foundation for what type of information you're going to pull into the report. We're looking at contacts and accounts in this report. If I select contacts and accounts, one thing I want to make sure I make clear up front. If we're going to send out an email campaign off of this report, we're probably going to want to include contacts. But if we're going to send out a mail campaign, chances are we're going to want to select accounts by themselves. And the reason being, if we select contacts and accounts, it's going to pull up a line of data for each individual that's part of that household. So for each contact, it will have their contact information and their giving information that we're going to include in this report for each contact. But if we're going to send out a mailing, we don't want to send out a mailing to both individuals in the household. We want to send it out to one. So that's why I'm just, right from the get-go, you're going to have that decision to make. Am I going to send out an email campaign? And if so, I'm going to select the contacts and accounts. If I'm going to send out a mail campaign, I'm going to want to go with accounts. So for our example today, we're just going to use accounts because we're going to plan to send out a mailing campaign from this report. Go ahead and select Create. And one of the first things I usually do when I get into a brand new report is I'm going to clear off all of the default information that's here. we're going to go to all accounts. Now, like we explained last time, just to make sure, just a refresher, if I select my accounts, it's only going to include the accounts that I'm the owner of, that I have created. And so, since chances are I'm not the only one doing data entry, or we may have a team doing that, we're going to want to make sure that we select all accounts. And for this example, we're looking for donors specifically who gave last year but have not given this year. So we're going to base that off of their last gift date. And up here, I'm going to select previous calendar year, sorry. And then this quick find, I can, again, begin typing information and just double clicking in it, and it will add it to the right of the previous column. And in Nonprofit Success Pack, there are roll-up fields on the account. And these roll-up fields show the number of gifts in the last 365 days. And that is also an adjustable field. You can adjust the number of days in the setup. Number of gifts last year, number of gifts this year, number of gifts 2 years ago, total lifetime giving, and then this is the amounts, the total gifts, again, in the same. Last 365 days, last year, this year, 2 years ago, and then total number of gifts lifetime. So for our example, we've already said we want their last gift date to have been last year. So we're going to pull up their last year dollar amounts. And then just as an example, I'm going to pull up this year as well. And then let's look what they did 2 years ago. Now, since we're sending out a mailing from this as well, we're also going to want to input their address. The default address on accounts is their billing address. So we're going to select the billing street, city, state, and zip. And you'll notice I'm dragging these over because I want to input them in the middle here and not over on the right. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and click Run Report. And we're going to see that we have 8 records of people who gave gifts in 2017 but have not given a gift yet this year. Now, as we're looking at this, if we decided, you know what, that's great information, but I also want to go back to this year, to 2 years ago, and I want to include anybody who gave in this year, but not in 2018. So how do I expand that? Since I've only got, if I go back to customize, I've got this one date field up here. And so I can only put 1 year, but I want to actually include people who gave 2 years ago as well. So the way to do that is we're going to select last gift date as the field. And we're going to drag it up here to our filters. And we're going to input a couple dates. We're going to say last gift date was greater than 1/1/2017. Or it was less than 12/31/2017. So that takes care of basically the same information we had up here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and change this. I'm not going to use this date field up here. So I'm just going to put created date is all time. And then I'm going to go back here. And you'll notice because I did that and I already had these dates here, none of this information changed yet. I'm going to go last gift date was also greater than 1/1/2016, which still none of the information is going to change. But when I put last gift date is less than 12/31/2016. So now we've got two competing criteria, right? Actually four, but two groups of competing criteria. So the way that we work this is going up here to filters. We're going to click the little down arrow. And we're going to select this filter logic. So for our example, we want it to be greater than January 1st, 2017, and less than 12/31/2017 to make sure we've got that year. But then we also want to say, or it was greater than January 1st, 2016, or less than December 31st, 2016. So the way that we've done that, you'll see that each one of these is numbered, and it's got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So the way we do this is we're going to put parentheses around each group. And then in the middle here, we're going to highlight the and just type or. So this filter logic is saying now we're going to include anybody who has a last gift date in 2017 or anybody who has a last gift date in 2016. Now that we run this report, we can see that we went from 8 records last time to 11, including this donor who gave in 2016 but has not given since, and these 2 donors who gave in 2016 but have not given since. Now this and/or statement, you can use this with every criteria that you have, every piece of criteria that you have, but just remember one of the important things is just put parentheses around the groups, and then you can change out the and or statements. And you can have the or statements either in the parentheses or vice versa. So it really kind of helps expand what we can do with the reporting to show some different groupings of people to be included. Okay, so we're going to save this report as our 2017 LYBUNT. If you do save it in your personal custom reports, that is only viewable to you. And later on, when we get into examples of how to work with dashboards, dashboards with reports in your personal folder will also only be viewable to you. I'm not really worried about on the training what folder I'm putting it in, just because we're going to be looking at my screen. But that is something to be mindful of if you're creating dashboards of these reports for other coworkers of yours. So. All right. So one of the things you can do to this, if you wanted to add a few pieces to it to make it easier to read, if we go back to Customize, you can actually total these up by clicking on the little down arrow next to it, clicking on Sum. You can do that for each column. And again, this is going to be they have not given this year. Now we're going to go through and create a couple other reports that we're going to use as we get into our dashboards to show a couple different ways that we can use that. One of the reports I want to show you is as we look at if you have event season coming up, and we're going to use a spring gala as an example here, but if you have a gala or a golf tournament or another event kind of thing that you're looking to run some reports on and want to be able to use that in a dashboard, one of the good rules of thought for a starting point for that is how you set up your campaigns. How do you define your campaigns? So I'm just going to take us over here real quick and look at some of the campaigns we have. We have a 2017 Spring Gala - sponsorships. 2017 Spring Gala-registrations, and the 2017 Spring Gala-auction. Now, a couple different ideas for how to manage that. I've seen some organizations that will use a logic where each character will mean a different piece of information as they go through it. And some organizations just want to be able to read the campaign name and know in just plain English what it was. So as long as we're starting all of these the same way, it will really help us as we pull some of these into reports. So with that in mind, we're going to go back over here to reports. We're going to click a new report. And in this case, we're going to go to donations, report type. And again, since I'm not the only one doing data entry, we'll go to make sure we're on all donations. I'm going to clear that off. In close date, we're going to want to, again, go back to previous calendar year. And on your opportunities, the campaign is listed as the primary campaign source. So in this report, we're going to want to pull in all of the gala donations, regardless of if they're sponsorships or registrations or auction. So we're going to say starts with 2017 Spring Gala. Now, because we named them all that the same at the beginning, it allows us to pull all of them in because it will start with that. We're going to pull in donation name, or account name, donation name, amount, and the campaign source. Now from here, we have this in a tabular format right now. But if we wanted to group these, and so just to see a report that shows how much did actually come in from auction versus sponsorship, we're going to want to change this report type from tabular to summary. And this allows us to have some groupings. And so the way that we create a grouping is we just go up here to campaign summary or primary campaign source, click on it, and we'll drag it right over here into this grouping. And you'll see now we have these two donations are showing up as part of the auction. This donation is showing up as registration. But it's still a little bit cumbersome because we can't see amount. So we're going to want to make sure that we go back over here to this amount field and summarize. And now it's going to show us for the auction, we raised $2,600. For the registrations, we had $250. For the sponsorships, we had $15,000. But to me, this is still a little bit cumbersome because you'll notice we've got in some of our data, the same households have given multiple times to each part. So if we just wanted, again, to summarize that, we could create a second grouping by clicking on the account name and dragging that right beneath it. And now it's going to roll up all of those same household gifts into one total. And then if we wanted to go and get rid of the details, we click on the show and uncheck mark the details. And now we've got all of those a little bit cleaner looking. And we can see the Divine household gave $100 to the auction. The Logan household gave $2,500 to the auction. But then the Divine household gave $10,000 towards sponsorship. And that was over the course of 10 gifts. In this case, each record is an opportunity record. So it's each one is an individual gift. So we're going to save this report as our 2017 Gala report. Okay, so we've got two reports now in the queue that we can work with. One is our LYBUNT report, and this one is our Gala report that shows specifically what came in for the Gala. Now, another thing that I see a lot of organizations want to include on their dashboards is a report that shows how they're doing over the course of the calendar year, whether that's by the activity they're doing or depending on how you do your campaigns, whether it's the type of gift or the type of activity. In our case, we have it set up as types on the campaigns. So we're going to go back here to New Report again and go back to Donations. Again, all donations. Close date, we're going to go previous calendar year. Clear that off. Again, account name, donation name, amount, and type. We want to make sure that we select the donation information type. That's not what I intended. Sorry about that. Sorry, we're going to use campaign source again. Okay. So we're going to run this. I'm going to customize this just to make this a little bit cleaner. Primary campaign source. We only want things that are assigned to a campaign. So in the criteria, we're going to say primary campaign source is not equal to blank. That way it's only pulling in pieces that are assigned to a campaign. Okay, and I'm going to save this as our 2017 calendar gifts. Now, just to recap on the reporting side, we've got our calendar gifts, we've got our Gala report, and we've got our LYBUNT report. And then from here, we're going to look at how do we add these pieces to a dashboard, and what are a couple of different ways that we can use this information in a dashboard. Whether you're using and/or statements, in our case, we used it on our LYBUNT report. But you can use that on several different reports, on any report that you want to create. Let's go ahead and jump into the dashboard here, and from here we're going to click on the new dashboard. And for our example, we're going to include the LYBUNT donors. And so to do that, there's several different graphs and charts that you can select from. Some report types don't work with certain charts or graphs. If you are using a tabular report, it will require that you select a row limit on it. And so we'll go back and we'll do that because that's what we're going to need to do for our LYBUNT report here. So from here, actually, give me one. Let me open up another tab here so I can go back and forth. On our LYBUNT report.
Uh-oh.
We're going to want to go here to customize. We're going to add a row limit. We're going to say, give us the first 10 based on the total gifts in last year. We want that descending. And tabular format is the one where we set a lot of this up on the report side first. So now that we've got that row limit, we'll go up here and you'll notice that once we set that row limit, this dashboard settings became available. So we'll select that, and it tells us, okay, so what do we want to show on the dashboard? In our case, we're going to want to show the account name and the total that they gave last year. Again, once we set that row limit from the filters, then the dashboard settings become available on this tabular format. We'll save that. We're going to go back to our dashboard here. You can go into Reports, New Dashboard. And for those tabular formats where we set the row limits, table, there's two that look very similar, metric and table. Table is the version that's going to work with those tabular report types. So we'll select the component that we want to show. Then we'll go back here to our data sources, and you have a couple options. We're using reports. These are S-controls and Visualforce pages are a lot more advanced, and but you can populate this just with your regular reports. So we'll go to, in my case, it's on my custom or my personal reports. We're going to want to click on it and just drag that 2017 LYBUNT report right over there. And you'll notice it pulled up in descending order because that's what we told it we wanted, the amount that they had given last year, and then their household name. And we'll edit the title.
Dan, there's a question in chat that I think is best answered by you versus me.
Okay.
How would you know which dashboards are available to use for a specific report?
Which dashboards or which components?
Question was which dashboards, but I think you might actually mean which components to go into a dashboard. Yeah.
So sometimes, yeah, it is a little bit tricky. Most of the charts and graphs will work with anything that has a value associated with it. So if you're comparing things that have dollar amounts or numbers of gifts, any of the charts and graphs will probably work with that. It's the hardest part for me is when we get into which time do I use the metric or which time do I use a table. Table works for, like I said, everything that is that tabular format, and sometimes it will, you'll select one and it will take a little bit of kind of going back and forth to see which one works the best with the type of report you have. But these, like this gauge or all of the other charts and graphs that are here should work with anything that has this kind of value. And table works with the other ones. I personally, I don't use metric as much.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think there is like a listing. This goes back to from the Salesforce admin certification test. I mean, there's specific ones that they list that work with other ones that it's more of a memory test than anything. But usually it's just trial and error, which one you like best for a specific dashboard.
Yep.
And feel free, anybody else, as we're going through, there is a chat box at the top there. Feel free to ask questions.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
So now we're going to add our other two pieces to this. And for our calendar, our 2017 calendar gifts, I'm going to go ahead and you can select that and drag it right over. I'm going to select the pie chart. Now, again, this is what's going to happen if we try to select one of these and don't have, you'll get this error if we don't have the row limit set up and we don't have the dashboard settings set up. So I'm going to go back to that report. We're going to look at our calendar gifts. And on this, I actually want to change this up because we want to look at how much has come in from each activity. So we're going to change this to a summary report. And we're going to pull in this campaign source. And we're going to summarize the dollar amount. And then I'm going to hide the details here. Because we just want to look at how many dollars have come in from each of these activities. So I'm going to go ahead and run that report and save it. Now I want to bring that in. Okay, so for this, it looks a little small to me, so I'm going to make this a wider version. And then we're going to get into this little wrench up here at the top to edit how it looks on the dashboard. So right now, it's labeling everything ascending, and it's showing the values. So if we uncheck that, it would actually take the values off. It also has this feature where it combines all the small groups into others. But on this, it's the values it's showing is we're going to want to make sure it's showing the sum of amounts. And the displaying the units is auto, but I prefer to just personally to have it display whole units. While that's thinking, one of the other things that we can do is if you want it to show the details, you can just select that. That way when somebody's hovering over each section of the pie chart, the details will show up as well. Okay, so let's edit this title. You also have some flexibility if you want this key to be on the bottom. Or on the right. That doesn't look good to me at all. If you want it to be on the chart, which looks even worse in this case. So we're going to put it back at the bottom. And if you see this in a pie chart and you're thinking, you know, it's the information I want, but I want to see how it looks in different graphs. Right here, you can just select the different options to show you how it's going to look in each piece. For our purposes, we're going to go ahead and go with that pie chart. And you'll notice you can select the width or the size of each of these columns. You know, you don't have to have them both all the same size. You can have each of them specific to what the information you have inside. Or if you only want two columns, you can cross out that column. Use the X on one of those.
And then Dan, there was another
sure.
question on chat. How does editing the report parameters affect the related dashboards? Will it update automatically?
It does. Yep. It will change that automatically. So if we go back, once we save this, if we go back and change the dates on this calendar report, it will automatically change the information that's correlated with it. You'll have to come back and change the title and some of those things. But the information that comes in will be adjusted by your report parameters.
Awesome, thanks.
All right. So then we're gonna go back over here and get our Gala report that we put together. And just to make sure I've got this the way we want, I'm gonna go back to this report. and pull it up. And we've already got this as a summary report. Perfect. Okay. And for this one, we can use, well, let's just use the funnel. Why that's thinking, I'm going to make that wider. And we'll go back up into the wrench. We'll show the details on hover. And I'm going to change this to, again, show whole units. And since I don't really like that other, I'm going to take that off. Just because it makes it clear. For us, we only have 3 categories here. Okay, so we've got the 3 reports that we worked on turn into dashboard pieces. But for this gala report, we also want to see the individuals that gave to this. So let's go ahead and I'm going to select that gala report again here and just drag it right down there below it. And because we have the primary campaign source is set up as our group, it's automatically going to pull that group in with the dollar amount. That version is a little redundant of the funnel graph that we have above. If you wanted to look at that in a little bit easier way, you could have that as well. Otherwise, we can go back over here and we'll save this as version 2. And I'm going to customize this. I'm going to remove that. So we're looking at just the individuals who gave to the gala and their households. Okay, so let's kind of walk through that a little bit slower. Again, I just took the type of gift, the primary campaign source, out of the groupings, and now we just have, again, these same people that gave to our spring gala, but now it's just broken down by their total giving for the household. Again, just a different way to slice and dice that information, hopefully make it usable and give our events team a little insight into who some of the larger donors were, the key donors for our gala. Over here, we'll get rid of that initial report. Let me save this real quick. Since I added that after I started my dashboard, it did not refresh that. So let's just go ahead and save this. That's going to take a second to edit or to refresh. So in the meantime, I'm going to go back here and select edit. And again, we're going to pull in that table, go over here to our reports. I'm going to pull in my version 2 of the gala report. Everything's still thinking. There we go. And so now we've got the account name with the amount that they gave to the gala. Now again, if we want to get in here and change this so it's not to adjust kind of how it's showing up, the display units is now set to auto. Again, it's rounding up or rounding down. If we wanted to put it to whole units, okay, we're going to go ahead and save this. And as we close it out, we'll save and close. And now we've got our development dashboard that has our 2017 donors who have given last year or the year before. And you'll notice the people who gave the year before but not last year have zeros. We have our 2017 calendar revenue by campaign. We have our gala revenue by which campaign it was part of, but in our case, we name those so we can see the difference between the auction, the registrations, and the sponsorship. And we also have our 2017 gala donors. So for several people, they'll want to see some of this information on their home screen. And on the home screen, it will show you the three pieces that are across the top, that first row. So if there are pieces that one person has that's more applicable than another, we'll just want to make sure that we've got the three pieces across the top for what they want to see on their home screen.
And Dan, can you kind of cover when to hit the refresh and the importance of that versus the data getting stale?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you'll notice it right here. It says this is as of today at 10:43. This is something that requires you to hit the refresh button. And I can't tell you how many support calls I have had in the past to say, you know what, this dashboard, it's not keeping up with me. And it's because we do have to manually refresh that. It's not something that happens on login or happens any other time. That's the one thing. When you go to your dashboard, make sure you're coming in here and clicking that refresh button. Thanks, Mark. As we add that to the home screen, if it's not already showing up, you'll go here to this Customize page. And here's where you can select the dashboard that you want. Sometimes it will pick up, once you have a dashboard on there, if you have that on there already, it will display the last one that you viewed. But if somebody doesn't have it showing up on their home screen, you can go right here to this Customize page right on the home screen and select that. And now your development team has their donors that they need to pay attention to, how we're doing so far this year, and the gala that's coming up. All right, so at this point, I'll open it up for Q&A, or Mark, if we have some other questions.
Yeah, there was another question kind of related to the refresh. They were suggesting that perhaps it could be a future enhancement for it to refresh at a pre-selected interval. I thought I remember there being the ability to set up force.com triggers or something like that, but I don't know. Are you aware of anything like that to be able to auto-refresh these or set that?
It may be possible with a trigger. That's going to be more advanced than most admins' skill sets. But I have not actually set up a trigger to do that before. But it is something that, those kind of ideas are great, and we can post them on the ideas board, and if they get enough votes, then Salesforce will kind of pick it up and run with it. But
yeah, I think it's a resource thing on the background to always hit that. So yeah, thanks Norman for that question. Any other questions? I've got everybody muted right now, but there is the chat box, the little bubble next to the phone icon at the top. So feel free to ask any questions you might have. As a follow-up, we are recording this, so we will be sending this out after the fact. If some of your teammates weren't able to attend or you found it useful and want to have it for future reference or to share, we'll also be sending out a brief survey to get your feedback on the session, and also, hopefully equally as important, other information that you'd like to hear about in the future. I've had a couple of requests about Lightning, because obviously this is all in the Classic environment. A lot of our clients are still in and currently prefer or require to be in the Classic view of Salesforce. So that's why we went with doing it all in there. If there's enough interest, we definitely consider doing one in Lightning in the future, and also on any other topics that seem to be trending. Obviously, if you want any kind of one-on-one support or need any requests, any specific questions, we'll try to answer those as well, but always here to help with any consulting. But I am hearing some yes pleases for Lightning, so I don't want to go too deep into that right now. And I don't know, Dan, is there like a 30-second spiel you can give on Lightning just to put you on the spot?
No problem. A lot of the functionality is going to be very similar in Lightning, but Lightning makes it does make it easier for how to change, set the criteria and some of those pieces. So to kind of jump back and forth, to do it real quick, let me pull up one of these reports, and we're going to just switch over to the Lightning experience.
Cool.
So we'll go, now we are in Lightning, so you're going to see a lot, it looks pretty different. And we're going to go back to our report, and we're just going to select the Gala report as an example. And you'll see that it looks pretty different, but over here we've got our filters. So we've got all donations, previous year, and the campaign source is here. So you're able to change your filters and kind of move some things around a little bit differently, but that's something we can definitely go into a lot more depth in if the need's there. But the information is still going to populate the same. It's going to give you, it does make it cleaner where you're seeing the total number of records and the total amount. But the way that you set up your filters and your criteria is a lot different. So, yeah,
no,
again,
that was
we can
great,
definitely go into a lot more into that.
Yeah, terrific. So, yeah, if we get enough feedback that there's interest for that, we hear a lot that people haven't transitioned yet, but they're eager to see it. So we can definitely cover that if there's enough interest there. There was another question. Do you have to set permissions somewhere for others to see your dashboard?
So depending on, as long as they've got permission to view the data, and right now we've got this set up to viewing as myself. So it's running as the user. So that's a great question. Let me just get in here and show you this one piece here. So right now, as we're in the edit mode, we can view the dashboard as a single user. And so whoever has access to that dashboard, as long as they have access to the information in the reports, it will populate. Now, if somebody has information based on your sharing rules and your permissions, if they only have access, say part of the team only had access to see registration revenue, then their dashboard would show up, right? But the revenue would be the only part that shows up in this report. So it's based on their permissions for the data. Now, if you want to get into see that, instead of just seeing it as a single user, if you want everybody to see individual information, so that way you can set up some of your dashboards, instead of using the all donations, you can use the my donations. Then all of a sudden it takes that parameter and applies it to the dashboard if you use that as run as the logged in user. So you do have that flexibility here in the viewing, how you view the dashboard. But as far as permission goes, it's what permissions they have to view the data that's actually in your Salesforce.
Awesome. Not seeing any other questions at this time, so I'll start wrapping up. If you do have any questions, feel free to quickly drop them in chat, and I'll try to catch them. But again, Dan, thank you very much for that. Thank you, everybody, for attending and your interest in this. We love offering this up and providing these, and we want to make sure they're useful. So very important that you complete the surveys and tell us what else you'd like to hear. There was a question as far as when is the next one, and we, I believe, are working on scheduling that. Know that we'll be sending out an update as soon as we have the next one locked in and what the topic will be. We actually haven't scheduled it yet, and we'll be looking at those survey results to help define what that looks like, but it'll probably be in a month or so. So thank you, everybody, for your time today, and have a great day.